Y'all understand, boy. New phone, new phone, new camera. New phone, new camera. It brought a whole different it put a whole different driver on what I was doing. That new phone, this new phone, the clarity of this new phone, boy. It put some shit down. I wasn't even ready for that a little bit. I ain't even gonna front. I wasn't even gonna front. I wasn't even ready for that. The way the camera just hit me, the clarity the my camera just hit me with, I wasn't ready for that. There's new clear clarity of the camera, new precision. Boy, I wasn't ready for that. Devon Ross, how was y'all weekend? What's up? How was y'all weekend? How are y'all feeling? How's your weekend? I made a post. You can look at it in my story. I asked 3 questions. Ask yourself 3 questions. How you feeling? How are you feeling? How are you thinking? Are you present? Ask myself them 3 questions before I got ready for the day. Ask myself them 3 questions before I got ready for the day. Just got my workout in. Before I went live, I looked and the camera hit me. I was like, ooh, this new light, clarity of this light on my camera. Let me go shave up real quick. Just sitting in that space. If you're not familiar, you watching this video now, you're going to watch it back, play it back. Last week, we've been going through it for the last 5 weeks now, about a month and a half. Last week, October 31st, 8 p.m. until was the intro meet and greet to the class, meet and greet to Chakra and Shadow. I appreciate everybody that came through, everybody that stepped in there, everybody that accepted our registration and stepped into that space. Beautiful build. We had a beautiful build that day. This week, Tuesday, every Tuesday, 8 p.m., we're going to be getting deeper and deeper. This week is week 1. We're going to get into that lower aspects. Great week. I was having a conversation yesterday. With my brother and his old lady. And he asked me a question, which posed me to ask myself a question that I already had confirmed. It was confirmation to the question I already asked myself. In the aspects of that high drive. A lot of times we have that high drive. 3 basics to those questions. 3 basic answers to those questions to help you solidify those questions. As we get ourselves situated for the day, let me do my usual invite. Drop everybody up in that joint. Drop everybody in there. Hit everybody with the little invite joint. You did what I'm saying? Let's get that in there. You know, that's what we usually do around this time. But the question that I posed to myself in understanding. Remember, your behaviors are what create your environment, or what create the environment. Your patterns populate your environment, and it's your habits that sustain that environment. Say that one more time. It's our behaviors that create our environment or emulate our environment, so to speak. It's our patterns that populate our environment. Once you came through the aspects of what populates your environment, so to speak, then we got to look at your habits or what sustain your environment. I want you to understand this. Your habits are what sustain your environment. Your habits are what sustain your environment. So it led me to pose the question that I've set for today in hyperfixation versus true fulfillment. Hyper being that state of hyperfixation versus that aspect of true fulfillment. The answer, another way of saying the answer in contrast to the truth. Simple. Think about it. Hyperfixation, spiritual bypassing, dysfunction, disorder, resentment, regression, anxiety, anxiousness, all of these trigger points. All of them lead to that, they all can go to one root. The need to do something outside of yourself. I need to do this, as opposed to true fulfillment is everything I'm doing from this point aligns, is my lessons, is my disciplines, is my standard, is my challenging my perspective and helping me grow in the aspect of me being in this space fulfilled. Sounds simple, don't it? I remember the reason that my brother asked me a question. I'm going to go to that aspect. My brother asked me a question. He was here, we were doing a conversation, and he asked me like, yo, how do I get my weight back up? I did my 30-day fast. How do I get my weight back up? I knew he was going to ask me that question because he had just finished his 30-day fast. And I asked him a simple question. I was like, the weight that you took, the weight that dropped off during your fast, how did you feel about it? How did you feel about it? What were the feelings behind the weight that you lost? What were the thoughts behind the weight that you lost? And he sat there and he looked at me and he was like, I don't know. I know I went through the 30-day fast. But that's a good question. I don't know how I felt about the fast. I knew I needed to get the weight off and I wanted to get myself to be better, but I didn't know. I was like, that's your truth to that. That's how you're going to put the weight back on. The aspect of being in that space of hyperfixation, that sense of reboosting up that energy, having access to that energy is something we get deep in the class. Having access to your energy, that sense of that, your higher self, that higher drive. If you're not used to moving in the accountability of your direction, the acceptance of that direction, the accountability to that direction that you're going in, you have no direction. Your direction has always been based in reactive. That means your energy was for your job. Your energy was to your kids. Your energy was to your significant other. Your energy was to something else. It was for something else. But you never really sat with your energy. You've never really had that moment of actual how to feel your energy, how to navigate through your own energy. Then you're going to burn out that new sense of that drive. You're going to burn out the new driver. It's kind of like the same thing with a computer. Think about it as with an aspect of a computer. All you know is that your computer needed more memory. All you know that your laptop, your PC needed more memory. You went to go buy more memory. Or you were like, damn, now I got to erase a bunch of shit off of my computer. So now you erase a bunch of shit off your computer. Old pictures, old files, you just erasing everything. But you never really sat with what you were erasing. Same thing in the aspect of working with your energy when you're sitting in that space of balancing. You're so used to, okay, just delete this, delete that, and then take this in. But you never really take a chance. I used to look at myself in a space of hyperfixation. Since I didn't understand what the original aspects or the original foundation of what I was erasing, what it came into my life in the first place, or I wasn't getting to the root, I only could take in the same thing. Since I wasn't assessing my behaviors, I only could take in things that felt based on those same behaviors. What I was calling those behaviors, what I was identifying those behaviors, the verbiage. Same thing with then that came down into the patterns. My patterns matched the verbiage, my actions. My habits fed and sustained me acting in those behaviors, in those patterns, getting information the same way, reacting to information the same way, reacting to whether it was a new song, whether it was a new song coming out with from one of my favorite artists that I was listening to at the time, all the way to, a lecture that's came out. It was always the same in it. It was always the same reactivity that I was looking for. So if I didn't get that reactivity from that information, then I would deem it didn't work. That wasn't meant for me to tap into. But since I'm not familiar with my energy on an intimate level, this is something we get into in the class, on that truly intimate level, I'm so used to things looking a certain way, moving a certain way. I'm used to the actions always being the same way. I'm used to no matter what I do, getting the same result. I'm used to the same things being triggered. Oh, I've been here before. Okay, you've been there before, but have you sat there? What stops you from sitting there? Or i.e. on the other end of that age, when you go into that space and you've been there before, what stops you from leaving? Think about your patterns of your day. It's so easy to get stuck in that sense of being the hyperfixation because it's what you're used to. Think about hyperfixation. Being in that hyperfixated state of being in that hyperfixated state with self, being in the aspect of you allow your day to be controlled by you hope that the day is going to be good, but you don't take the time for yourself of even cultivating and grounding your energy in aspects of, because you're learning the aspects of what you're hoping for. The biggest aspect. Another question that one of the things that I was talking to my brother about was removing expectations. Some of the simplest things is removing the expectation. Removing expectation forces you to sit with accountability. That's another aspect when we think about fulfillment. Removing expectation allows you to sit. The first levels of removing expectations, you got to sit with accountability with yourself. How often are you doing it, or how often are you not doing it? And sitting past that point of wanting to beat yourself up. Oh man, I know I'm not meditating like I need to. Okay. I know I'm not meditating like I need to. I know I'm not journaling like I need to. I know I'm not doing this, and this. It's so easy to pinpoint what you're not doing. But what are you doing? What is your personal aspect of what meditation looks like for you? If you look at the basic definition of meditation, it's becoming aware. Simple awareness. I'm becoming aware of my body. If the first 5 minutes of my meditation is going through a check with myself, and I know I need to make that checklist, every time that I meditate, I feel like my eyes is closed too tight. I feel like my jaw is clenched too tight. I feel like my shoulders aren't sitting and relaxed. I feel like I'm slouching. I don't feel like my back is strong enough. Okay. Now you're going to get the information that goes with that. Ask yourself the question. I don't feel. Let's go through the simple aspects of sitting with yourself. One of the things that we teach in class and I teach my clients. All right, let's go through the simple nursery rhyme for yourself. I am, I feel, I am, I feel, I act, I love, I speak, I see, I understand. Let's go through it. Let's go through it. Simple markers for yourself. I am present. I feel present. My actions are present. My embrace is present. My speaking is present. My sight, my vision is present. My understanding is present. So now everything that you're feeling, I don't feel like my back is strong enough. Maybe I need to sit up against the bed. Maybe I need to sit up against the wall. Maybe I need to sit up against the couch and sit for the first time. All right, cool. Let me get used to that feeling. Let me get used to that feeling for myself. That way, by the time I go through that embrace, I'm speaking, I'm envisioning, I'm understanding. That's my first level for myself. See, the thing about the aspects of coming into the space of fulfillment, going through the processing, it's a process, is allowing myself to naturally sit where I need to sit. But when you're so stuck on the hyperfixation aspect, hyperfixation to have you thinking, nigga, I'm 50, I'm 60, I'm 70, I should have did this back in the day. I should have did this back when I was 20. I should have did this back when I was 30. No, you shouldn't have. One of my favorite things to tell my students and my clients is being honest. And I tell my students and my clients this shit all the fucking time. I was like, if I had access to the information that I have right now, nigga, I'd be a fucking supervillain. I actually said that in class last week. I'd be a fucking supervillain if I had access to this information back then. I wasn't ready for it. That's why I wasn't ready for it. That's why I don't have it. Even in the aspects of you not understanding where you're gaining information from because you're not able to sit with yourself. You're so ready to hyperfixation is going to have you in that state of, I'm ready to open up all of my chakras. You don't know what each chakra is. You got some basic information. It's energy and it's okay. It's root chakras about grounding and about security. All right, cool. So I'm going to ground myself in security. All right, cool. You're looking at it from the hyperfixated point. You look at the root chakra let's use as the example we're going to build up. You look at the root chakra, you're looking at it from the hyperfixated point like you haven't been doing it before. So you totally ignore every lesson. That's where the shadow work. That's when you sitting down with me, and we actually going through those processes, and you actually get to sit in that root chakra, and you have to sit with, and we're going to go through from the original definition of where you learn security, the original definition of where you learn to ground, how you learn to ground yourself, and go through all of those experiences step by step. So you got to go through that root chakra. You got to go through that space. Or else you're going to be like, because what most of us do, yeah, because of trauma, because of we weren't even supposed to be here. We weren't even supposed to be here. So guess what you're going to start feeling? Every place where where yourself you have not sat with, you don't feel right at your job. You don't feel like you're supposed to be there. So now you start to linger on, I had so many opportunities to do this and go to school and do this and I could have been this and but I was trying to do this for my parents and I was trying to do this for my family. So now you're going through those feelings, not sitting with them. Now you over balancing the aspects of that space. So now you're going through your actions. So now you swinging through your actions, what you're aware of. Man, but if this person didn't do this and my family didn't do this, so now you're trying to reconfigure and refurbish your behaviors and your patterns. So then what you do after that? Now you're going through the aspect, now you're underbalanced, because now you're trying to put it all off on somebody, the accountability to your behaviors, your patterns, and your habits. So now you're sitting in the heart space. Yo, man, that's why I should have never did this, and I should have never did this. And I'm trying to be a man, and motherfuckers don't understand. Now you in the heart space. Now you speaking that negative. Now, before you even know it, you skip from speaking when you should have been silent and sat with it, all the way into that envisioning. Now, your job, it pops up at your job. It pops up the argument with your girl, the argument with your boss, all of those aspects that you see based on a certain level of understanding. You went through the entire process, but you're not used to sitting with the process. You went through the entire process. You're always going through the process, but you're not used to sitting with the process. See, that's that key. That's where that hyperfixation comes in. That's when that hyperadolescence kicks in. That's when that hypervigilance kicks in. Now you immediately now you stuck in a state of projecting. So now you're going to try to save somebody else, or save this, or save this. So now you don't have to sit with that behavior in action. So now when you come back down, because it's a high, when you come back down and you sitting back in that grounded space, that root, you sitting back in that space where that insecurity was, where that shame was, that guilt, that doubt was, now you sitting with it. You didn't did all of that for what? You didn't got super upset. You didn't allow yourself to go all the way up. For what? What was it for? So think about how many times you're doing that, because you ain't sitting with the awareness with yourself first thing. You're not going through that process. Think about how many things that you created inside of your space as figments or totems to make it as, okay, cool, I'm doing this, but what is it connected to? One of the hardest things for us to realize, one of the hardest things for me to realize was how I define, I'll talk about this all the time, how I define money, how I defined money, how I define making an income, how I define finance, how I define those aspects in my life were rooted in my behaviors, my patterns, and habitual habits. Your habitual habit is by the time you get to the stage of the habit, it's already automatic. Regardless, that shit gonna happen. That shit gonna pop off regardless. That's your fail safe. That habit is the fail safe. That's the go-to. That's what triggered. That's when you're triggered, you go straight to that habit. You can replace what the habit looks like. You can replace what the habit is. The perception. You can replace it all day. But until you sat with the pattern, till you sat with the behavior and resolved that pattern and behavior, resolved your connection, your acknowledgement, your acceptance, and your assessing of that pattern, that behavior, that habit is only the same thing. It's like, for an example, you used to be an alcoholic. Now you stop drinking. If anybody understands the science behind alcohol pretty much everything turns into sugar. That's why when you stop drinking, you automatically want a bunch of fucking candy. When you stop, when you smoke, when you drink, whatever it is that you do to stay separated, whatever habit you formed, you notice is going to be sugar, i.e. sugar, glucose, sugar. That's habit. That's the habit. The pattern is the breakdown of that stimulation. The behavior is what are you stimulating? So if I have a if I have a behavior that's based in shame, then my stimulation is going to be based on shame. So my habits are going to be to sustain shame. Think about it. Porn, strip club, boyhood shit. As men, you think about boyhood shit. Women, you think about Fiction shit, damsel in distress type shit. Your independence, your manhood, you being an alpha male, all them shits is based on habits. All that shit's based on habits. So your hyperfixation is based on sustaining the habit. That's why you never can leave the space that you in, because that's what your whole identity has been the entire time. That's been your identity. That's been who you are. That's been who you thought you were. So the process of sitting with that pattern, the process of sitting with that behavior is acknowledging that habit. I have a habit of this. I have a habit of when I get upset, when I'm feeling bogged down, everybody got to feel it. How does everybody got to feel it? When I shut down, I say don't bother me. I'm going for a walk. I'm going to escape. I'm going to escape. That's your habit. So now you have to look at how you escape. In that acknowledgement, that's the hard part. That's one of those hard points in the aspects when you working with that shadow, is learning where you used to escape, your habit of escape. A lot of times in the aspects when people when people are going through the aspects of shadow work, people are going through the healing process. When we think about the healing process, a lot of times when you're going to, for example, you go to a Reiki master, do Reiki. When you're going to somebody working with energy, readers or whatever, they're reading your habits. They're reading your habits. They're getting familiar with your habits. They're going to bring your habit to the surface. That's why when you're always looking for that, that's when you're always asking the question for the answer. What about my relationship? What about my relationship? What about my job? What about money? Those are the material things. That's the physical and material. You're always asking a surface to a subsurface level question. What about my money? What about my, okay. And then think about it when you go further back, even when you want to ask the question about your past life, even you ask, what about in my past life? What about my soul contract? Why would I write in my soul contract that I wanted to have to defend my mother? You didn't write that in your contract. You feel what I'm saying? You didn't write that in your contract. What you wrote was the energetic formula of that pattern in your contract. What you wrote was the energetic attunement of that behavior in your contract. That's what you're learning. That's what you sit with to learn. Of course you didn't. Of course, you can say it all day. I would never ask for the type of mother that I had. I would never ask for that type of father. I would never ask for my father not to be in my life. I would never ask for my mother to sell me for dope. I would never ask for that. Of course you wouldn't. Of course you wouldn't. But it's an energetic code or pattern that you wrote in. It's an energetic behavior. The energetics is in the behavior that you wrote in. That's what you're configuring. That's what you're configuring and figuring out. That's what you're sitting with. That's what you need to feel. That's the I am. That's what you feel. That's your actions. That's your embrace. That's what you're embracing. Remember, it's absolute. It must be split in order for you to be able to see it. But it's in absolute. Your behavior functions in absolute. Your pattern functions in absolute. It's your habit that forms in the aspects of that duality in that space. That's why you can get stuck on when you stuck on the habits of others. You stuck on the patterns and the habits of others. You stuck on the patterns and the habits of others. You stuck on the patterns and you stuck on those patterns and habits of yourself. That's when you get stuck in the physical shit. because you're trying to discipline a habit. You can't discipline the habit. Doesn't work. You can't discipline the habit. You can't make something, you cannot make something that is the byproduct of your perspective. If you have a wounded, the wounded perspective, the fractured perspective that you are not looking at, that you are not sitting with and dealing with, we didn't know how to do that aspect in part. You haven't sat with that. You're just trying to fix the habit. You're trying to replace the habit. You're trying to replace drinking with going to the gym. You're trying to replace your addiction. Like, give an example. You're trying to replace your porn addiction with something else. But think about it. Until you sit with the pattern, the pattern, work your way back, the pattern, and sit with the behavior that sparks you to go through porn, that addiction, you won't even understand that you've been doing exactly what you were doing in that aspect of that space is what you needed to be doing. You going through the categories on the porn site, you have your picks. You looking at the categories on the porn site, whether it's Asian MILFs, BBC, whether it's step, whatever it is, that process of looking for what you're looking for, that is exactly what it is that you need to sit with. It's not deeming, oh my God, it's bad. Because remember, I always talk about positive and negative. It served you a purpose. But when you're not used to taking accountability for yourself, you will put anything positive, you automatically going to put a negative expectation on it. And everything of a negative expectation, everything of negative, you're going to put a positive expectation on it. That's that tit for tat. That's when you're sitting there and your old lady don't want to give you none. Don't want to give you none. All right, fuck it. I'm going to go in the bathroom. So it was negative that your lady didn't want to give you none. So your positive expectation, I'm going to go rub one out. But that feeling that you felt, rejection, that feeling that you felt, rejection, that's the original feeling. You felt rejected. Since you're not able to sit and actually go through the process of what is rejection for you, you go let it off. That's why as soon as you done and you lit that load off, you sit there and you feel disgusted. You sit there and feel disgusted. Kids all in your belly button, you feel disgusted. You feel rejected. That's why you went to go watch That's why you went to go watch what you went to go watch. You created, that's the loop. That's the loop. Your verbiage. That's your verbiage. That's the language of your trauma. That's the language of that emotion. That's the language of that behavior. That's the language of that pattern that you're not used to sitting with. In the same aspect. Think about the habits that you have formed in the aspects. One of the biggest things that I sit with and I give people in the aspects when we're working on things, when I give you that fast, when I break down fast, when I give that information, it's to force you to actually sit and allow it to actually start separating from you. Because all you're going to be left with is the real reason why. Most people, you go through like, for example, the reason that a lot of people go through fast and you can't make it past day 5 is because you're not used to sitting with the emotion. You're not used to sitting with the emotion or that energy, that energetic that's coming up. Remember, your habit was emotional. Your habit was eating to deflect, eating to repress, eating to suppress, eating to calm anxiety, doing this to calm anxiousness. All of this aspect to keep yourself from actually being present with yourself. So now that you're sitting inside of that space, you get to day 5, you start to feeling rejection, but you don't know how to process rejection. You don't know how to sit with rejection. You don't know how to sit with you don't know how to sit with that accountability of rejection. You don't know how to sit with not being accepted. You don't know how to sit with that. But that's what's coming up in day 5. So then you tell yourself, well, I made it to day 5. I can't make it anywhere past this. It's because you didn't go into that. You didn't go into that present. See, the aspect of you coming into the aspect of fulfilling things for yourself is you're going in present. When you're not going in present, you're going in based on that hyperfixated aspect. We talk about going in based on hyperfixation. I remember going to my job based on a hyperfixated point of I'm going to prove that I'm the shit. That was the purpose of the habit that I formed of going to my job. That's what my job was. It was to prove that I was the shit. That's what my job was. My patterns reflected in that. So my patterns was going to work early. So being to work 45 minutes, an hour early. My pattern was, all right, cool, I'm gonna be clean. I'm clean at the job. When I go in, I'm wiping down my station. My pattern was, if they need me to stay a little bit later, I'm gonna stay a little later. I ain't gonna complain for the fear of rejection. My behaviors behind that aspect, I did not want to be rejected. So of course I'm going to stay if they say they need me to stay. Of course I'm going to work that extra 5-10 hours. So an 8-hour day turned into 15 hours real quick. Because my behavior was not to be rejected. My behavior was not to feel like, my behavior was I didn't want no one to feel the abandonment that I felt or see the abandonment that I felt about myself. That's why I'm in that space. So until I was able to sit with that behavior with myself, until I was able to sit with my mentors and sit with people, I couldn't understand when certain people said certain things to me to trigger up that behavior in me. They were doing exactly what they needed to do. They were showing me exactly how empty my space was. They were showing me how empty it was. They were showing me how empty my actions were. That's why it triggered me. Because I wasn't present in that space. It's why you go through the aspect of you're in the relationship. But let's think about the aspect, we don't get deep into shit like this in class. In the aspects of a relationship, your first thought process for us is to skip courting. We skip the courting phase. You don't even know the basics of aspects of the basic number for a courting phase, about 8 to 10 months to almost a year. That's when you're learning schedule, availability, and free time. But if I haven't learned my own schedule with myself, my schedule is based on a habit, my habitual habits. My availability is based on my habitual habits. If my free time is based on habitual habits, then when I'm going through that I'm going to skip the courting phase because I'm already fixated on something fitting my behavior, my patterns, and my behaviors. So if I have wounded behaviors, wounded masculine, wounded feminine behaviors that are in play, I'm looking for something to emulate or to experience those behaviors. The verbiage, I'm just trying to be a man. I'm trying to be a man. I'm trying to be the provider. I'm trying to be the protector. But if my environment is sustained by my habits, I only can go as high as my habit until I've resolved it. Then my job And what's at my job dictates that. When you hear it, what you do is what you do in any situation. What you do at your job is the same shit that what is at your job energetically is the same shit that's in your home life energetically. What's in your home life energetically is in your free time, your gym time energetically. It's the same. The energy's not separate energies. It's one stream of energy that you have compartmentalized. You go to work to prove yourself. You go to work to prove yourself, work yourself up. Now you angry. Then you take that anger and you go pump it into your muscles at the gym. So now you working all the anger into your muscles. You working all the depression into your muscles. You manifesting it into your muscles. That's why every time now you sitting there trying to look, now you sitting there trying to go get now you got a G-Unit tank top on. You got a G-Unit tank top on. And you trying to go to the store, the only way that you don't understand what depression is or depressurizing yourself is, you looking for somebody that's doing that aspect. Look at what are you going to attract? Something that is going to emulate and affirm. When we look at the feminine aspect, the emotional anchor, you're looking for something to affirm the depressurizing that you go through with yourself. You're looking for something to confirm the shame that you feel about yourself. You're not giving it to yourself. You're so hyper fixated. You're not giving it to yourself. You don't know how to give it to yourself. You give it to yourself to a point to where you can say it, but you're not doing it to a point to where it's natural. It's a natural motion. You can't even embrace. Yes, you can't even embrace pressure. Yes, you can work well under pressure, but you don't know how to ground what is natural, that natural aspect of pressure. If I wake up on 10, I wake up on that time. I wake up on that energy. But I know it's my discipline, it's my authority, it's my responsibility to set that energy and to set that emotion and ground it. I know that is my accountability first thing. Because if I don't, that energy's all over the place. That energy's all over the place. I'm going to use too much over here. I'm going to spend 15 minutes over here. Think about it. You do it. You hop on Facebook first thing in the AM. It's not about you. It's not about getting rid of doing Facebook. It's understanding what Facebook is originally for. For me, in between the time after I've done my initial little workout, after I've taken my pre-workouts and taking my first stream of supplements, before I go work out, I know I got about 15, 20 minutes. My body's already on fire. I already got my vest on. I'm ready to go. But I'm sitting with that energy. So the first thing that I do, I know I'm going to use Facebook. But how do I use Facebook now? I make posts in my story. I don't interact with other people's things. I'm here for a purpose. If you look at my story, I made the picture. I put the picture of myself, hoodie on, locks down. I was about to go for my run. The picture right after that was the layout of what I did on my workout. Video after that was during my playlist. When I was in my playlist during my cool down time, I went to the store, went to the grocery store, picked up some fruit, and then I was listening to the new Ace Hood record. It was Wet For You aspect, and I was like, I like what was said inside of the video. So I took that, I had a picture already ready for it. See, when you're moving in the aspect of fulfillment, you have learned to put your energy in place. You are able to take every opportunity as it is and use it as it is. You're not looking at I can't use that because you know where you're at. Because you know where you're at, you're present. You can use everything. Everything is an opportunity now. If you need to be sat down on your ass, you're going to get the opportunity for something to sit you down on your ass. Now, instead of you reacting to it like you used to, now you start responding to it. Damn, I did say I need to, damn. Tapping in. You did say before that you needed to sit the fuck down. I mean, I need to sit down in the, now I need to sit down in the AM. I don't know how to sit down. You hopped in your car, get some funny shit. I'm going to show you how this shit works. Take you outside of the mind of good and bad and look at positive and negative. Your ass got in your car. You got in your car, left out of your parking space, left out of your garage, left out of whatever you left out as. You left out, turned out, and you hit a fucking tire and your tire popped. Tire went flat. Now you sitting on the side of the road waiting because you ain't got no spare or you ain't got the piece for your spare in your shit. So now you got to call AAA or you got to wait for somebody to come get you or come do the shit with your car. That's the sitting down. That's the opportunity for you to sit down. You told yourself you needed to sit down. You gave yourself, I need to have time to sit down. You called AAA. They said it'll be about 30 minutes to an hour. Said it'd be about 30 minutes to an hour. You just gave yourself 30 minutes to sit down. Go ahead and go sit down. Sit down. That's your 30 minutes. That's your initial opportunity to sit down for 30 minutes. Sit down because think about what the aspects when you're going through the space of that meditation. Think what you're supposed to be doing in meditation anywhere. Your first stint for meditation is let all the noise in. So yes, you are angry about your tire. Let the noise, let it in. Let it in. You were upset that you let your cousin, you were upset that you let your irresponsible cousin, irresponsible family member, irresponsible friend borrow your jack and they didn't bring it back to you. Let it in. You upset because now you about to be late to work. Let it in. Let that shit in. You upset because your homeboy or your homegirl or your girl or your baby, whoever didn't answer, let it in. That's your opportunity to let it in. What are you feeling? It's not what you're feeling, it's how you're feeling. It's not what you're thinking, it's how you're thinking. See, remember, you're shifting. Being present is about your how. Being present is about the why. Not being present is about the what you should be thinking and what you should be feeling. I should be angry. Okay. No one said that you shouldn't be angry and upset. It's okay. Yeah. It's happening to you. But if you sit long enough with that, when you sit long enough with that, look at the space. While you was on the way home last night, you weren't paying attention and you felt yourself, you ran over something in the road. You didn't know what the fuck it was. You weren't paying attention. You weren't present. That's what gave you that slow leak in your tire. Because you weren't present. The simplicity you sitting like, nigga, I wasn't present. Damn, I wasn't present. I wasn't present in that space. I wasn't present in that space right there. Me being upset that my man's or my girl or whomever didn't bring my jack back, that's on me. Because, let's use the example, I never asked for it back. I felt like I didn't need to ask for something that's mine back. Feel what I'm saying? That same energetic link is the reason that you felt like you shouldn't have to call. You calling your job with the excuse, it's the same, it's all this attached to the same thought process. Guilt, shame, that doubt. That's so you're manifesting exactly in that aspect. That's exactly how you manifested it into your life. You said you needed to sit down. You're used to sitting. You're used to something making you super angry to sit, but you never thought about how many times you sit. You never thought about how many times you sit down based on something making you. You only sit down when something makes you angry. You only shut down and separate when something makes you angry. You ain't never sat with that thought. That's the only time you're used to sitting down is when you're angry. That's when your habit, you zone out on the game. That's when you zone out on the game. That's when you zone out on the bottle. You zone out in smoking. You zone out, you feel what I'm saying? Because that's what you are accustomed to. That is the pattern that you are accustomed to. Remember, how you're manifesting things and bringing things into your reality is based on who you are, not what you doing, not what you want to do, not what you say you are. None of that fucking matters until you simplified it, until you actually broken it down and looked at how it corresponds with the what you are, with the who you already are. The hyperfixation is you get stuck in that hyperfixated point with yourself of, yo, I'm going to do it this way because I'm going to do it this way because this is okay. It sounds good in a generalized aspect, but that's not naturally a part of your day to day. That's not naturally part of your day to day. You know it isn't. That's why your habit always kicks in whenever you get to the point to where it's actually starting to instill itself into your space, your habit kicks in. And your habit leads you back to the pattern. And your pattern leads you back to the behavior. Because you're used to only feeling one. You're not used to how you feel. You're not used to exploring how you feel. In the aspect of for us as men, you ain't used to feeling shit. You ain't used to feeling it. But one way. A handful of ways. It has to match it has to match. Let me pull this up right here. Sitting in that space of like, whenever someone asks like, what are you, okay, cool. What are you asking for? Go back. Whoa, I don't know what that was. Ooh, hit the wrong button. We back. Whoa. When you're looking in the aspect of your space, when you're asking for certain things, you get exactly what you need right there in front of you. But it goes through everything that you have to go through, everything that you brought to that space. So use an example. If you have this aspect that you should have did shit earlier in your life and you wasted your life, you're too old to be doing some shit. You've done too many things. When you ask for guidance, where do you think your guidance is going to be triggered through? It has no other way to get to you other than you seeing some dude, some woman, some young motherfucker that's doing it. And you feel it, but you ain't used to that feeling of that motherfucker doing it. And now you sitting there, damn, I don't know how to talk to that shit. I've told the story aspect before of like at every job that I was at, I was always the youngest at every one of my jobs. I was always the youngest at every one of my I was always that younger aspect at every one of my jobs. One of the things that helped me sit and solidify me moving forward was sitting with, not based on my age, not based on where I was at, but really looking at what have I created, not emulated, but have I created in my life, in the present, the tool and the key that is in the aspects of what I am now. If the answer to that is yes, move forward. If the answer to that is whether the answer is no or yes, that's the acknowledgement, acceptance. Now it's time to assess it. How am I using it? If it's a yes, how am I using that tool? If it's a no, why am I not using that tool? Or what is it about that tool that I'm not using? You feel what I'm saying? Building out that space. What standards are connected to that tool? What structure is connected to that tool? What stability, what patterns, behaviors, and habits are connected to that tool that I am using? This is when you see everybody, the first thing everybody want to do is, because a lot of your skill sets, a lot of your tools, your tools, your way that you validate yourself, the way that you sit there and set an intention with yourself is attached to fear, survival. That's why the first thing that you get attracted to is the fear shit. That's the first thing you get attracted to is fear shit. The first thing you get attracted to is fear-based shit. First thing you get attracted to is some shit based on some agenda. That's the first shit you get attracted to. Because that's what you're used to that's what you're used to using for your tool or your skill set in order for you to acquire your energy. That's what you're used to acquiring your energy with. That's how you're used to keeping yourself in a state of that fixation. You're literally speaking into you're only going to speak where you are at, who you are. But if you're not used to sitting with who you are, you're going to speak always on what you do or what you've done. You're going to speak on what you do, future tense. You're going to speak on what you've done, past tense. But who you are is in the center is in the present. You ain't speaking on who you are. You're not speaking on how you acquired that skill set. See, that's the hard part, sitting on how you acquired that skill set. That's when that's when you got to sit with it, and they got to go past the point of, because everybody was against me. No. Everybody was not against you. Everybody was not against you. Everybody did not have it out for you. You formulated behaviors and patterns that created habitual habits to where the perception of you was based on your habits. So since you're not used to sitting with your patterns and behaviors, you've created an entire ecosystem around you to sustain your behaviors and your patterns. So of course, every time you going over to this person, you're trying to share the good news of something that new happened in your life. What does it connect to? What is you getting that new job connect to energetically with you and how you define money? Because in that same instance, that's why I'm be telling everybody my moves I be making. Because when I make them moves, man, they gonna want something from me. You've built your entire life based on not being rejected. You've built your entire space off being hyper vigilant. So of course they're going to need something from you. Of course they're going to want something from you. That's what you built your space as. So you think when you start changing, when you start looking at those patterns, you think those things are going to sustain? No, the habit cannot be sustained when the pattern is changed. The pattern cannot be sustained when the behavior is changed. Because now this is when we talk about you slipping into the nothing. You slipping into that nothingness. Where all it is there is your accountability to yourself and building out a new pattern. Building it from scratch. But if you're not used to sitting with it, you have those choices. You get stuck in hyperfixation, or you in the aspect of fulfillment. When you're sitting in a space of fulfillment, when you're sitting present in fulfillment, what you do, no matter how it is perceived, no matter the perception of it from others, you're able to actually sit with it and accept the challenge to it. Damn, I never looked at it that way. I never looked at it that way. Thank you. Or I have looked at it that way. Thank you. That was something that I needed to, that's something that I have actually been, thank you for that. You can think both sides. Some of y'all can't think. Some motherfuckers get stuck on the oppression narrative. You can't think until you're able to be like, damn, you got me. All right, cool. I learned from that. You got me. Now I'm going to learn from that. But some of you get stuck in the aspect of, nah, I'm going to keep doing it my way because this is what I'm used to. You can't even accept the challenge of somebody actually giving you some information because it's not coming to you a way that you're used to getting it. Or you can't accept, or let's go to the other end. You can't accept giving information as is, and allowing that person to take it as it need to be taken. This is when you sit inside of a space and you have a conversation and now you feeling good, you getting that hit and you want more. This is when you start repeating what you're hearing. You're not it's not being synthesized. You're just repeating it. Oh, it's a difference. When you're sitting in the aspect of processing something, when you bring it up, you're like, okay, so it will be something like this. You automatically are in the present state, bringing forth examples. Even when the past aspect comes up, something that's supposed to be repressed, something that's regressive, or something that makes you anxious, you're actually bringing it to the present and using it as an example in that present space. When you stuck on that hyperfixation and you looking for the answer, it's like if somebody asks you a question, name 5 things you don't like about yourself. Tell me 5 things you don't like about yourself. If I'm listening to a conversation, when I'm listening to a client, I want you to say right now that you are scared. I want you to say that you're of doubt. I want you to acknowledge and accept that feeling of what you are. I want you to go through, I feel like I am a failure. I feel as a failure. I feel that my actions and my patterns and my behaviors are that of a failure. I embrace being a failure. The process of now learning why my behavior. I now speak that I'm learning the aspects of what are the roots of my feelings of being, my roots of my feelings and my actions of being a failure. I am now seeing myself processing what I'm speaking as a failure, how I'm embracing what I'm embracing in aspects of being a failure, in the actions of me being a failure, in the feeling of me being a failure, in my lack of security, in me securing myself in being a failure. I'm sitting with that process. Because if you can't do that part, the affirmations that you want to do are empty. If you're not doing that part, then any intentions you set are empty. You're not able to sit with where your intentions are being fed from. Your intentions are being fed based on failure. So the moment that you sit there, I said this in class, the moment that you ask for that prosperity ritual and your job was based on failure, in order to get in, you got to get out the same way. Now your job fires your ass. Now you feeling that failure. That's what you asked for. That's the order that you asked to be fulfilled. You needed to feel that shit. But if you're not going through the process of cycling, you're not going through that process, then once you start going through the process, you start understanding why it takes those steps, why the steps are necessary. You understand now when the information you start grabbing based on ritual work, you understand why the process is necessary. You understand why they say you got to write down your feelings after you do this. me read this. Let me look at it like this. All right. I just told my lady last night that I need to really start focusing on not learning my life through pain and start listening. It's time. I also told her that not to be super religious, but I'm truly understanding now. King Solomon said in Proverbs 3:5, lean not to your own understanding, because I am so used to learning the things in my only way. Not only my way, but I'm more in experimenting through the trial and error before I find out. Sometimes the person that was trying to warn me was right. I love it. I love it. But sitting in that space with yourself in the reality, you like, nigga, the way that I'm trying to learn, going through that space, having the shit that I was trying to learn as an example in that space I was like, I'm still trying to make it the same shit. I'm still trying to get out the hood. I'm still trying not to go back here. I'm still running away from some shit. But once I sat with that, I understood the necessity of me going back to that point. I understood the necessity. Okay, cool. Now I'm at a point, but the only difference between me being at this point now is because I'm at this point and I'm actually present. See, the only thing that stops you from actually sitting in that space is you being present with what you've been doing. Your accountability inside of that space, your authority or lack thereof, your emotional authority, energetic authority in that space, your lack of the responsibilities that you've given yourself you've always given yourself responsibilities based on your emotional, i.e., or your energetic authority. So if you've always given yourself responsibilities based on shame, guess what it looked like all the time? Everybody around you got to make you feel shame, or they got to experience shame. They got to feel insecurity or some type of pain in order for your responsibilities to shine. They got to feel that shit. You want them to feel it still, because you ain't separated them. You ain't even separated them from that aspect. I had a conversation. This is the conversation I had with my brother last night. I was like, my brother, for example, he is so hyper fixated. We had this conversation. He is so hyper fixated on what he saw our pops do to me. He is so hyper fixated on that shit. The harshness that my pops did to me. But when I explained to him the line by line of the shit that we were doing back in the day, from how I lived my life and how he lived his life, and when I told my brother, I said, bruh, you are more your pops than you want to accept. That's what you first need to accept. You are more pops than you want to accept. That nigga looked at me like, what? But that was a part of him being present. Because until I could hit him at that aha moment, I couldn't hit him with the rest. I couldn't give him the rest of it. I couldn't give him the information that went with it. See, this is the aspect when you're accepting others. When you accept others as they are, separated away from the title that you've given them, that title that you said they should live by, and you see them as who they are, you now can actually ask the questions about that person. See, it's hard to ask questions about your mother, your father, your cousins, your brother. It's hard to ask questions about ancestors and who they are, because you still have them connected to the title that you gave them, because that title was attached to that level of emotional authority. Your mother, being the mother that she was attached to a certain level of emotional authority. So your responsibilities in you being a man, your responsibilities in you being an independent woman are attached to that. Those are the attributes this is what I mean when I break down to tell you that you have attached your attributes, your accolades to trauma. Your whole life was attached to that. So of course, every time that you not being present, Of course, your mother got to stay the same way. Brother got to stay the same way. Sister got to stay the same way. Cousin got to stay the same way. Ex-baby mama got to stay the same way. Ex-wife got to stay the same way. But guess what they're doing? By them staying the same way, masculine, feminine aspect, by them staying the same way, guess what happens? They affirm what you're trying to confirm. By you staying the same way and coming up with the same rhetoric of pain, guess what? You are validating why they feel the way that they feel. There's a reason that your lady can tell you that she's scared and you don't know how to feel. She's affirming what you are feeling. She's affirming your feelings. That's what you anchor to her for. That's why it doesn't work after a while. That's why it doesn't work after a while. If you've ever noticed in a relationship of going into the aspects of that process and you looking in that space and you're like, oh my God, why the relationship ain't the same? You ever notice when you go into a relationship and you've done certain things, you're pretty much, when you go into a relationship, you go in laying in the expectations. You lay out expectations first. You don't lay out any standards. You lay out expectations. Standards are dictated by the discipline and my accountability. Expectations are based on my regressions and what I'm my regressions or my anxieties, the unresolved. This is what I mean by being in that unresolved space. When you stuck in that unresolved space, all of you put expectations onto the space. So everything that you're going to get from that space is going to have to be streamed through your expectations. So if you're not used to feeling what you need to feel, guess what happened? That's why it don't feel the same after you do it. That's why you come into the space like, yo, she ain't doing this the same or he ain't doing this the same, because you didn't build that out. When you become present, this is when I talk about the aspects of your purpose, your mission. For yourself, not as you're trying to create a collective purpose. You're trying to collect a collective purpose and a collective mission, not understanding your individual purpose and your individual mission. Because you stay in the collective purpose or the perception of yourself, you never have to deal with the perspective. What's up? Yep. But yeah, I just wanted to get that aspect. I wanted to get that in the aspect of hyperfixation versus the aspects of you fulfill, like the aspect of fulfillment. Because we can just keep going. But as I said in the opening of the video, as I said in the opening of the live, tomorrow and for the next 6 weeks, every Tuesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time to 9 p.m. Because y'all, if anybody, you rock with me, you were in the class last week, you've been in anything with me, you know our shit is not just, we go until in that space. We go into the spirit, say, yo, stop. You feel me? But yeah, if you're interested in chakra in shadow, and you're not already registered, hit me up in the inbox. We'll set it up. We set you up, get you in there. Get you in the chat room, get you on the special link, because it's not you ain't gonna find it anywhere else. Any of my other services, y'all know, readings, consultations, sessions, builds, and anything of that nature, design, all that good shit. You know, the website, hit the link all the way at the top. Always hit the link at the top. I desire you to be the fucking best. I desire you to be the fucking best. That's on you. But you don't have to do it the way that you've been doing it. I promise you. But I'm going to cool myself back down. I got a session. I got some sessions, some work I'm going to knock out. I'll see y'all in class tomorrow. See you in class tomorrow if you signed up. And I'm asking the same 3 questions again. How you feeling? How you thinking? And are you present? That's your kid. I love you. You love us. I'll show you.